Clara raised me, so when she asked me to take the fall for Mark, I didn't have it in me to say no. Her words were simple, a quiet promise that echoed in the sterile visiting room. "Leo, just do your time," she had said, her voice steady despite the circumstances. "When you get out, I'll marry you." 3 years later, I was released from prison. On the day of the extravagant wedding she had arranged for me, with all the guests watching from below, I stood on the highest overpass on the riverfront and let myself fall. "This time, Clara, I don't want to marry you. I was finally out of prison." 3 years had vanished in what felt like the blink of an eye. The one thing that hadn't changed was the Port City Police Precinct, its entrance still as imposing and formidable as ever. The 2 stone lions that stood guard out front felt like a monument to a version of fairness and justice that I no longer believed in. Snowflakes drifted down from the gray sky, just as they had on that cold winter night 3 years ago. In a single evening, I had gone from a promising student at a prestigious university to a convicted killer, a name that people whispered with fear. It had been my 18th birthday, the day I officially became an adult, though I was far from mature. Mark, who was always furious that Clara was throwing a private birthday party for me, had gotten drunk, taken his car, and killed someone. When Clara and I arrived at the scene of the accident, all we saw was the victim lying still and covered in blood, and Mark on his knees nearby, his hair a complete mess as he stared in abject terror. He gripped the hem of Clara's dress, his voice choked and breaking as he repeated the same words over and over. "Clara, what do I do? What do I do? I didn't mean to. She just ran right into my car." Even then, in the face of such a tragedy, Mark couldn't see his own fault. He just kept pointing a shaking finger at the dead woman on the pavement and screaming, his voice shrill with panic. "It's not my fault! She ran into me! She ran into me! She was crazy! She deserved to die!" "Shut up," Clara said, and the sharp sound of her hand slapping him across the face finally quieted him down a little. In that moment, his wild eyes locked onto mine, and a dark, heavy premonition washed over me, a cold certainty of what was about to happen. Mark's entire attitude flipped in an instant. He was suddenly desperate to repent, crying like a small child as he clung to Clara's waist. "Clara, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Please, you have to save me. I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to die." Clara pinched the bridge of her nose, looking utterly exhausted, but her hand never stopped patting Mark's back, in a gesture of silent comfort. After a long, tense moment, she seemed to have made up her mind. "Mark, when you make a mistake, you have to pay the price for it." Mark stared at her, his expression stunned and full of disbelief. "What do you mean? You want me to go to jail?" Clara looked at him with a flicker of pity in her eyes, her voice weary as she paused before speaking. "Go turn yourself in. I'll do everything I can to give the victim's family a larger settlement, and I'll help reduce your sentence. I promise you, you won't be in for long." Mark shoved her away like a madman, screaming, "No, I won't! There has to be another way. You just don't want to save me." "Mark, listen to me," Clara said, reaching for him, but he slapped her hand away with a vicious swipe. "Mark, it's not that I don't want to save you. I'll get you the best lawyer to fight your case. Just listen to me, okay?" Mark had grown up by Clara's side, spoiled like a little prince who had never known a single day of hardship. The idea of prison was a death sentence to him. No matter how much Clara tried to reason with him, he wouldn't hear a word of it. Mark's family had done a great service for Clara, so she had always been a bit soft on him, always letting him have what he wanted. The moment he turned his desperate gaze on me, I was consumed by a chilling dread. A cruel, calculating smile spread across Mark's face. "Clara, who said there isn't another way?" Clara frowned at him. "What way?" Just have Leo take the fall for me. Problem solved, right? Mark said, pointing directly at me. When the cops get here, just tell them he was the one who was drunk driving. You bastard! Before Mark could finish his sentence, Clara slapped him twice more, harder this time. Mark, what are you saying? I raised him. For a split second, I actually felt a wave of profound relief wash over me. I thought there was no way she would ever agree to his insane, monstrous demand. Bullshit, he's not. Mark clutched his stinging face and snarled. He's just some stray you picked up off the street. Don't think he can just slap the Vance family name on himself and belong here. Do you really think he just wants to be your adopted son? What do you mean? Clara asked him, her voice tight. He's in love with you, obviously, Mark said, turning to look at me with a triumphant smirk. Leo, am I right? Leo, is what he's saying true? Clara asked, her eyes searching mine. In that moment, I stared back at her, completely speechless. I did love Clara, and not just in the way a son loves his guardian. I just never thought Mark, of all people, would be the one to figure it out and use it as a weapon. Leo, you like my sister, don't you? You go to jail for me, and I'll give you my blessing. I'll let you marry into our family, Mark said with a condescending smirk. Leo, you're not going to refuse to help with a little thing like this, are you? When did my marriage become your business? Clara's cold voice cut him off sharply. You are going to turn yourself in. You made a mistake, and you will do the time. You're going to get yourself right in there. I thought that for once, Clara was finally being fair in how she treated me and Mark. But how could I forget my place? I was just a stray she'd picked up off the street. Raising me until I was 18 was more than I could have ever asked for or deserved. Just as the wail of police sirens grew closer and closer, Mark played his trump card. Clara, didn't you promise my dad you'd take care of me for the rest of my life? Clara hesitated. In the few moments she stood there, lost in thought and conflicted, the police arrived. The rain was coming down hard that day. A landslide had occurred in the area a few days prior, which meant the road barriers were damaged and the surrounding security cameras had not yet been repaired. The smell of alcohol on Mark was faint, almost completely washed away by the heavy rain. But me? He had taken the remaining half bottle of red wine from his car and poured it all over my body, my face, my mouth, and my nose. Clara watched Mark do it, too stunned to speak. She owed him. Mark's father had died saving her, and she carried a deep, unshakable guilt toward his son. Why didn't I try to stop him? Because I owed Clara. When she found me in a dumpster all those years ago, I was half dead. If it weren't for her, I would have died right there in the filth. She saved my life. She raised me for 8 years, gave me food and a home, and sent me to the best schools. When she silently allowed Mark to do this to me, I knew it was time for me to repay my debt to her. Rain and red wine mixed together on my clothes and skin. It was hard to tell which there was more of. When the police arrived, the smell on me was overpowering. The 3 of us were taken in for questioning. Clara had no trace of alcohol on her. The scent was strongest on me. Mark only had a faint whiff. From every possible angle of the investigation, I was the prime suspect. No one spoke up for me, and I confessed to the DUI. The outcome was sealed. Clara hired the best lawyer for me, and who knows how much money she gave to the victim's family as compensation. In the end, I was sentenced to 3 years in prison. At an age where I was both an adult and not yet one, on my 18th birthday, cold steel handcuffs snapped around my wrists. All the panic, all the joy, all the love and the lack of it, it all vanished into thin air. I became a young man feared by everyone, a murderer. The day I went to prison, Clara came to see me one last time. Leo, you do your time and get yourself right. When you get out, I'll marry you. That day, she whispered in my ear, her breath warm against my skin. Leo, I'm sorry. Clara Vance owes you for this. Maybe it was out of guilt, but for the next 3 years, Clara never visited me again. She came to pick me up the day I was released. It was the first time we had seen each other in 3 long years. "Leo, I'm taking you home," she said, taking the worn bag from my hands. Inside were a few sets of clothes I had worn after being locked up. It was the same bag she had bought for me 3 years ago, the one I had carried with me the day I was sent to prison. It was filthy now, stained with memories and grime, but for once, the ever-meticulous Clara didn't seem to mind. As we got to her car, I instinctively moved to get in the back seat, just like I always had. Clara grabbed my wrist, her voice soft. "Leo, sit in the front." "No, it's fine, Clara." I glanced at the passenger seat. That was always Mark's spot. I gently pulled my hand away from her grasp, got into the back on my own, and placed my hands neatly on my knees, staring straight ahead. Clara gave a small, sad laugh. "Leo, it's been a few years. You don't call me sis anymore?" I used to take advantage of how good she was to me, deliberately copying Mark and calling her that. It made my secret crush on her feel a little less wrong, a little more innocent. Clara was only 8 years older than me. When I was 10, she was 18, the beautiful young woman who took me home. But on my own 18th birthday, to repay her kindness, I took the fall for Mark and went to prison. Sometimes I feel like fate played a huge, cruel joke on me. I clenched my fists, fighting back the bitterness that was rising in my throat. "I was just a kid then. I know better now." Clara didn't say anything. We drove the rest of the way to the Vance estate in a heavy, uncomfortable silence. She opened the car door for me, gently helping me out. "Leo, welcome home." Seeing the red lanterns hung both inside and outside the mansion, I vaguely realized it must be the new year. Clara's parents had already told the household staff to prepare a huge feast. During the meal, they kept piling food onto my plate, their kindness feeling suffocating. I couldn't get used to this kind of attention. My chopstick slipped from my trembling fingers and fell to the floor with a clatter. I tensed up automatically, expecting a reprimand. Mark, sitting next to me, sneered. "Figures. The guy's never seen anything nice. A little time in prison and he forgets how to even hold chopsticks." "Shut up. If you don't want to eat, get out," Clara snapped, and Mark immediately fell silent. It was the first time she had ever chewed him out to defend me, but I didn't feel a single flicker of gratitude, only a deep, hollow bitterness. I think I must be sick. Clara's mother, trying to break the palpable tension, changed the subject with a bright smile. She asked me with concern, "Leo, now that you're out, we should get your and Clara's wedding on the calendar. I've looked at a few dates already. You can pick one you like later. We'll choose the perfect day." Clara's father chimed in, his voice serious. "That's right. We need to pick a good day. We can't be careless about this." Then he turned to Clara with a stern look. "After you're married, you better treat Leo right. If you don't, I'll be the first one to come after you." Clara smiled and promised, "Yes, Dad. I'll be good to Leo from now on. I won't let him be sad." "I'm sorry," I said, my sudden movement cutting her off. I knelt on the floor before Clara's parents. They gasped in surprise, their faces a mixture of confusion and alarm. "Leo, what are you doing, child? Whatever it is, we can talk about it. Don't just get on your knees, son." But I bowed my head to the floor 3 times, repaying them for all the years they had raised me as their own. "Mr. and Mrs. Vance, please forgive me, but I can't marry Clara. I don't have those kinds of feelings for her." "Leo," Clara called out to me, a flash of raw pain crossing her eyes. "You don't love me anymore?" "Maybe I did once, but not anymore." "Not at all," I said, my voice feeling distant, as if it belonged to someone else. "Now all I feel is repulsion and a bone-deep chill. Clara, I never loved you. If I ever gave you the wrong impression, I'm sorry. I'll change." "Who asked you to change?" "You don't have to change," Clara snapped, her eyes turning red with unshed tears. But the sight just felt glaring and artificial to me. I heard my own voice, firm and clear. "Clara, I've paid my debt to you. I know." Dinner ended in a tense, suffocating atmosphere. Clara went upstairs early to rest. I saw her stumble a few times on the grand staircase. Everyone in the room thought I was being ungrateful. So many people wanted to marry Clara, and I had just rejected her in front of her entire family. Even when I ran into Mark downstairs getting a glass of water in the middle of the night, he acted like I'd just hit the lottery and was complaining about the prize. "Leo, who the hell do you think you are? You do 3 years in prison and think you can just marry Clara? What more could you possibly ask for? You think you can do any better?" "If you're so unhappy about it, why don't you marry her?" I poured myself a glass of water, downed it in one gulp, and scoffed. "It's just 3 years in prison. Why didn't you go yourself? Maybe then you could have married her." I didn't want to deal with him anymore. I just wanted to go back upstairs to my room and be alone. But Mark clearly wasn't done with me. He continued his taunts, his voice dripping with venom. "You think everyone's like you? In love with their own guardian? Shameless!" I turned around, almost laughing in anger, and looked into his poisonous eyes. "And you being in love with your own sister is any less shameless?" Mark was furious. "You?" He thought he had hidden his obsession so well, but he was full of obvious tells. I hadn't wanted to talk to him, but I couldn't suppress the rage that was boiling inside me. Even though there was nothing I could do to him physically, I couldn't help but want to knock him down a peg. "I'm not Clara's officially adopted son, but you're her officially adopted brother." Mark's adoption into the Vance family had been publicly announced. The Vances acknowledged him with all due honor, claiming he was their long-lost son. He was given a certain percentage of shares in the company. From then on, the Vance family had another son. It was a promise Clara's father made to compensate for the fact that Mark's father had died, saving his daughter. Mark became Clara's official brother, and in many things, she gave him a long leash. But Mark was in love with Clara. He didn't want to be her brother, but that's all he could ever be. He always knew I loved Clara, which is why he could never stand me. He targeted me constantly behind her back. I was back in my room changing my clothes when I heard Clara knock softly on the door. I thought she was angry, so I was surprised she came to find me. "Leo, are you asleep? Can I talk to you for a minute?" "Not yet," I answered softly. The door was unlocked, so Clara walked right in. I instinctively stood up, my body going stiff, my hands hanging uselessly at my sides. It was a subconscious defensive posture I had picked up in prison. Clara's voice was gentle, no longer as cold and distant as it used to be. "Leo, I warmed up some milk for you. It'll help you sleep better." "Thanks," I said, taking the cup awkwardly. But the moment my fingers brushed against hers, the cup slipped from my grasp. Milk splashed across the expensive rug, and the glass shattered into a dozen pieces. I immediately crouched down to pick up the shards, my hands shaking. I kept apologizing, the words tumbling out. "I'm sorry, Clara. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry." Tears started streaming down my face without me even realizing it. Clara pulled me into her arms, holding me tight against her. "Leo, it's okay. It's okay. I'm here." I gradually calmed down in her embrace. I tried to push her away, but she grabbed my arm firmly. I was wearing a short-sleeved shirt, so Clara easily saw the network of pale, jagged scars that covered my arms. "Leo, what is this?" she whispered, her voice filled with horror. "It's nothing. I just scratched myself by accident." I tried to block out the painful, vivid memories that were flooding my mind. "Leo, tell me! Who did this to you?" "Don't!" My thoughts spiraled into chaos, and I started babbling apologies, the words making no sense. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Please let me go. I don't love Clara anymore. It hurts. It hurts so much. Leo, you're awake. Do you want some water? The next day, I woke up in a cold, sterile hospital bed. The moment I opened my eyes and saw Clara sitting beside me, I instinctively shrank back into the corner of the bed, tensing up defensively. Why am I here? Clara looked down at me, her eyes filled with a profound guilt, her voice hoarse. Leo, you fainted yesterday. I brought you to the hospital. I didn't dare look up at her. I was afraid she'd ask about the injuries on my body. The other inmates had done it. Their families had taken money from Mark. A lot of money. Enough to set their families up for life. Enough to make them give up years of their own sentences just to torture me in their place. It wasn't easy to bribe people in prison, especially those who were close to getting out. For them to give up their chance at freedom just to torment me, it must have been a huge sum, and all of Mark's money came from the Vance family. But his spending wasn't without limits. Any extra cash had to come from Clara. I wanted to believe that Clara wouldn't let someone do this to me, but when everyone inside was calling me disgusting for being in love with my guardian, my will was worn down again and again. I wanted to believe she didn't know, but with every single day she didn't visit, I fell deeper and deeper into despair. Clara's next words shattered the fragile belief I had clung to for 3 years. She apologized to me. Leo, I'm so sorry. I had no idea Mark did so many terrible things to you. Don't worry. I won't let a single one of the people who hurt you get away. This morning I already notified the police. Mark's been taken into custody. And the ones in prison who hurt you, I'll make sure they never get out. I looked at her, shocked. You didn't know? I thought you knew. Then why didn't you ever come to see me? Leo, believe me, Clara said, reaching for my hand. I subtly pulled away, and her expression faltered. Leo, I would never do that to you. But you never came to see me. Not once. I finally asked the question that had been buried in my heart like a shard of glass for 3 years. Clara looked at me, her eyes full of pain and guilt. I'm sorry. I couldn't face you. So that was it. But it didn't matter anymore. I still had things I needed to do, and I didn't want to keep talking about this heavy, painful subject with her. So I just asked, when can I leave the hospital? Seeing my attitude soften a little, a hint of a smile appeared on Clara's face. Leo, you can leave right now. You just got back and you don't have many clothes. How about I take you to the mall? Okay. Clara asked for my opinion, and I gave a faint, indifferent nod. There were a few things I needed to buy, too. She took me to the biggest shopping mall in the city. For someone who usually hated shopping, she was surprisingly patient. Any item of clothing I glanced at for more than a second, Clara had the staff wrap up everything in every color. Before I knew it, she had bought me a mountain of clothes, but it all just felt like a heavy burden. I couldn't feel happy at all. I knew I was sick, very sick, and I might never get better. I wished I could turn back time, back to before I ever met her, this amazing, complicated woman, and before she ever saved me from that dumpster. Then there wouldn't be all this resentment and pain between us. As Clara and I left the mall, a group of 5 or 6 middle-aged people came storming toward us. They were carrying bags of vegetables and cartons of eggs, and the moment they saw me, they started throwing them right at my head. They screamed curses, their faces twisted with grief and rage. You murderer, why don't you just die? Give me back my daughter! Give me back my daughter! I understood. They were the family of the person Mark had killed. The eggs they threw splattered on my head, and the sticky, foul-smelling yolk ran down my face. Clara tried to shield me with her body, and she was pelted with vegetable leaves and rotten eggs. But all I could hear, all I could see, was that winter night 3 years ago. The victim covered in blood, and Mark telling me to take the fall for him. My memory was filled with the curses and scorn of the men in prison. So young and already chasing after your elders. Shameless. I wonder how your parents raised you to be so messed up. You probably ended up in prison because you were such a screw-up. Man, if I had a son like that, I'd rather be dead. Raise him all this time, and he turns out to be a disgrace, a pervert. A kid that young in prison can't be any good. He's just like the rest of us. My 18th birthday became my permanent nightmare. The vibrant, hopeful Leo I used to be died that winter. I don't know how Clara got me back to the car. When I came to my senses, I realized I had gotten her pristine car dirty. My clothes, Clara's leather seat, they were all covered in rotten egg whites and wilted vegetable leaves. I'm sorry I got your seat dirty. It's okay, Leo, it's not dirty. I'll have someone clean it later. She was lying to me. It was so dirty, so dirty. For those 3 years, they were just like this, pouring their leftover food on me, the greasy soup dripping down my pant legs. Those 3 years were just as filthy. Ever since then, the sight of food makes my stomach turn. The warden said I had the tastes of a rich kid and was a picky eater. The inmates said I was sleeping around with other men for protection. Rumors spread like wildfire. After that, everyone who saw me would judge me with their eyes. During yard time, everyone would stay far away from me. Don't touch me, I'm dirty. I instinctively flinched away when Clara tried to wipe my face with a tissue. She pulled me into a painful, crushing hug, stroking my hair. She soothed me over and over. Leo's not dirty. Leo is the cleanest boy in the whole world. A kind lie like that didn't make me happy at all. If only it were true back then. How nice that would have been. I couldn't help but break down, sobbing, my heart aching so much I could barely breathe. I clutched Clara's collar. You're lying to me. I'm sorry, Leo, I was wrong. I'll never lie to you again, okay? But it's too late. It's too late. Clara wiped the tears from my eyes, kissing my cheeks over and over. Leo, don't cry. I was wrong. I'm sorry. After that day, Clara took me to see a therapist. The doctor said my condition had gotten worse. Clara didn't want me to know, but I overheard them talking in the hallway. The doctor said I needed the constant companionship of family right now, so Clara started spending every single day with me. She was no longer busy with work and rarely away from home. Even when she had to go out for business, she would take me with her. Now that Mark was gone, there was no one to bully me anymore. Clara would tell me bedtime stories every night and watch childish cartoons with me on the sofa. When I got teary-eyed watching a sad part in a TV show, she would be sad with me. When I laughed, she was happier than anyone. It was as if her emotions had become completely linked to mine. Everything was so perfect it felt deeply unreal. I knew she was trying her best to make it up to me, but unfortunately, not everything in this world can be fixed. Some things, once they're gone, are gone for good. One day, Clara had to go on a business trip. She didn't feel comfortable leaving me alone, but she also seemed to be doing something she didn't want me to know about. To make it easier for her to leave, I pretended I was fine and promised I would wait for her to come back. The doctor also said my condition was improving, and she didn't need to watch me so closely anymore. Only then did Clara relax a little. She gave me some instructions, cooked enough food to last a few days to make sure I wouldn't go hungry, and then left for her trip. That night I woke up with a start, a little hungry but not wanting to eat a full meal. I decided to eat an apple and go back to sleep. As I was peeling it with a small fruit knife, I accidentally cut my hand. I watched the blood well up from the cut on my finger, and for the first time I didn't want to stop it. A thought flashed through my mind. Maybe it would be better to just die. But it was only there for a second. Then my best friend Sam snatched the fruit knife out of my hand. "You want an apple? I'll peel it for you," he said. Then he frowned and yelled at me. "Leo, what are you doing? Do you have any idea what you're doing? Why would you do something so stupid? Don't you know how hard it was for us to survive? Why are you trying to throw it all away?" I stood there frozen, like a child who had been caught doing something terribly wrong. He was right. Why was I giving up? How could I do this to Sam? He'd almost gotten his leg broken trying to save me once. We had fought so hard just to live. Why was I doing this? I felt a wave of crushing guilt. I hesitantly reached for his hand. "Sam, don't be mad. I won't do it again, okay?" Sam's expression finally softened. He gently patted my head and chuckled. "You idiot. I'm not mad anymore. Come on, let's get you to bed." I followed him into the bedroom like a shadow, obediently got under the covers, and looked at him without blinking. I smiled. "Sam, you got handsome again." He ran a hand through his hair, his eyes gentle as he teased. "Duh. When have I ever not been handsome?" He was right. Among our small group of orphans, Sam was the most loyal and the best to me. "Leo, what are you doing?" I was chatting with Sam when Clara called on video. I pulled Sam closer so he was in the camera's view and said to Clara, "I'm talking with Sam. Thanks for sending him over to keep me company." Clara's expression was a little strange. "Oh, you're welcome. As long as you're happy, Leo. I was worried about you being alone, so I asked him to come over." Even though there was so much distance between us now, this time I was truly grateful to her. I hadn't talked to Sam in so long. I said softly, "Thank you." Clara smiled, but her voice sounded a little off. "Leo, you never have to thank me. Ever." "Yeah?" I gave a bitter laugh. Clara suddenly asked, "Leo, did you watch the fireworks with your friend tonight?" I nodded. "We did. They were beautiful, so bright." The fireworks in Port City during the New Year's season were always a magnificent spectacle. After a moment, I thought Clara had fallen asleep, but then she said, her voice quiet, "Leo is as bright as the fireworks, too. An eternal spectacle." "You already know I'm not," I said. A strange silence fell between us. Clara's voice was hoarse when she finally spoke. "Leo." I knew she was about to apologize again, so I quickly hung up the phone. I was terrified of hearing her apology, as if it would erase everything that had happened between us. Clara wanted to go back to how things were, but I couldn't. We were even now. She didn't need to apologize, and I didn't want to hear it. That night, with Sam by my side, I had my first good night's sleep in a long, long time. When I woke up, Clara was downstairs packing her suitcase. I hadn't expected her to be back so soon. I pulled Sam along with me to say hello to Clara. She came up and ruffled my hair. "Leo, you're awake. Let's go on our trip together." I didn't want to go out, but Clara wouldn't feel right leaving me alone. I had to beg her. "I want Sam to come with us. Can he?" "Yes, of course. Anything you want, Leo," Clara said with a small, sad laugh. The three of us went to the airport together. On the plane, I couldn't stop talking to Sam, as if I had to tell him everything I'd seen and heard all this time. We looked at the clouds outside the airplane window together and talked about the passing scenery. It was the first time I had talked so much in years, as if I had to get all my words out at once. Sam was always patient with me, listening quietly and responding to everything I said. Clara sat quietly beside us, her gaze gentle and watchful. After we landed, the crowd in the terminal was thick, and I got separated from Sam. I started to panic, pushing through the people desperately searching for him. Suddenly, I saw Sam near the road outside the exit. He was smiling gently at me, but no matter how I tried, I couldn't catch up to him. I kept running, yelling for him to stop, but Sam didn't listen. He ran into the middle of the street and was hit by a car, his body crumpling to the pavement, covered in blood. "Leo!" I heard Clara shout my name from behind me. Before I could react, she had grabbed me, holding me back. I cried, screaming at her, "Quick, save Sam! He can't die! Please, save him!" People around us were pointing and whispering. I slowly made out their words. Is this guy crazy? Trying to get hit by a car? Yeah, he must have some mental problems. Didn't you hear him say someone got hit? There's no one here. He must be an idiot. Stop it, stop it. Didn't you see the look on the woman's face next to him? Like she wants to kill us. Let's get out of here. I looked again at the spot where Sam had been hit and saw that there was no blood at all. Sam had never been there. It was all a hallucination. Sam was already dead. He had died when I was 10. He was trying to save me from some older bullies. His leg was broken, and he bled to death before help could arrive. It was all fake. I was the one who wasn't normal. Sam died because of me. He never recovered after they tried to save him. I was still clinging to a sliver of hope that he was alive. Clara, is what they're saying true? I asked, my voice trembling. Clara covered my ears with her hands. Leo, don't listen to them. You're perfectly normal. Sam isn't dead. You just saw wrong. I told Sam to go home first. When you get back, you'll see him. Just be good, okay? I knew she was lying. My body was getting weaker. I was starting to have hallucinations. Clara didn't know that she had a tell. Whenever she lied to me, she liked to cover my ears, but I could still hear everything. In the end, I went with Clara to her business destination, the headquarters of Vance Corporation. Clara always seemed to like coming here for her trips. Worried about me, she postponed her meetings this time. She didn't go anywhere at night, staying with me the whole time, but I didn't want to be with her. I thought that with Sam, I wouldn't be an orphan anymore. We could leave this place together and live a good life somewhere else. A place with no Clara, no Mark. He would always be my best brother, and I would always be a good brother to him. But all of that was shattered. It felt like nothing truly belonged to me. I couldn't hold on to anything, and I couldn't get anything. Just like how I loved Clara, but ended up in prison for her. I wanted a family, but Sam died because of me. In the end, it was all just my imagination. That night, as I was drifting in and out of a restless sleep, I heard Clara on the phone with the doctor. Leo's condition has gotten worse. He's started having hallucinations. Doctor, what should I do? I saw her cover her face in anguish, sinking to the floor and sobbing quietly. It's all my fault. Every time Clara apologized to me, it made me miserable. Just like in the past, her apologies always came with bad news. When Mark stole my toys as a child, she would say to me, "Leo, I'm sorry. I'll buy you a new one, okay?" When Mark would call and pretend he couldn't catch the bus and couldn't get home, Clara would drop everything and leave me to go pick him up. That day, I didn't have an umbrella, and it was pouring rain. I waited for her under a crumbling wall until late at night and came down with a high fever. She apologized to me again. "I'm sorry, Leo, it was my fault." Clara compromised for Mark so many times, but never once for me. She always said it was her fault. She was always sorry. But what I really wanted to say was that it wasn't her fault. It was mine. Because I wasn't good enough, she could only focus on Mark. Because I wasn't good enough. When I took the fall from Mark, she didn't defend me. But this was what I owed her. Clara was so cruel. She saved me only to push me into one difficult, impossible situation after another. Sometimes I wished I had just died the year she found me. I wouldn't have fallen in love with her, and I wouldn't be in so much pain now. During those 3 years in prison, I hoped so badly that she would come to see me. That would have given me the strength to keep going. I wanted so badly to tell her that everyone was bullying me, to beg her to save me, that I couldn't take it anymore. But she never came. Not once. The next day, Clara had to go to a meeting. She didn't feel comfortable leaving me alone in the hotel. Only after I promised her again and again that I wouldn't go anywhere and would wait for her to come back, did she finally leave. Clara didn't believe me. She was afraid I'd do something stupid. When she left, she deliberately locked the door from the outside. She also had someone remove all the sharp objects from the room and even had cameras installed in our suite. But she didn't know that before I went to prison, I was a top student at Columbia. None of this could stop me. After she left, I typed out a message on my phone with some things I wanted to say to her. Clara, I wish you all the best. If there's a next life, I hope we never meet again. I don't hate you for making me take the fall for Mark. That was my debt to you. Now we're even. After I'm gone, don't look for me. You don't need to put up a headstone. I just want to leave quietly, alone. This is my last request. Thank you. I disabled the hotel's security cameras and went to the riverfront. This was where Port City's highest bridge was, and it was also where Clara had found me all those years ago. I stood at the edge of the bridge, looking at the churning, dark water below. The evening wind whispered in my ear. Leo, jump, jump, and the pain will be over. No one can ever make you sad again. No arrogant Mark. No vicious prison guards. No one throwing rotten eggs at you. No malicious inmates. And no Clara. Let all the people who wished you were dead get their wish. The day Leo died, he saw the thousands of glittering lights of Port City. He saw the festive decorations on the Vance Hotel across the water. He saw Clara running toward him, her face a mask of terror. He heard her scream, "Leo, don't!" But he was tired. He was so tired of this malicious world. That day he jumped from the high bridge. He was only 21 years old. Clara's epilogue. The day Leo died, everyone said the heiress of the Vance family had gone mad. She spent 100 times, 1,000 times, even 1,000,000,000 times more money than Mark ever had to bribe the people in the prison. She had them do to Mark everything they had done to Leo, thoroughly and completely. And she gave one simple order. Don't let him die, but make sure he's broken beyond repair. The people took the money and, of course, worked even harder, following Clara's commands to the letter. They didn't actually kill Mark, but they certainly made him suffer a world of pain, a living hell on earth. Everyone said Clara had shown her so-called brother some mercy in the end. It wasn't until 10 years later, in the dead of winter, that people noticed the Vance heiress, not yet 40, already had white hair at her temples. Every day she would go to the cemetery to talk to that boy, and she did so for 10 years straight. That day people watched as she traced the photo on the boy's headstone inch by inch, her fingers lingering on his young face. Her voice was as hoarse as an 80-year-old's. Leo, this is the last time I'll come to see you. Later, people found out that 10 years to the day was when Mark was released from prison. He hadn't been tortured to death inside, but he was found dead by the river alongside the Vance heiress. It was the same spot where Leo had died. Only then did people understand. Clara hadn't shown Mark mercy. She was waiting to get revenge for Leo. In Clara's suicide note, 2 lines were found. If there is a next life, let me serve you hand and foot, just to atone for my sins and see you happy. At the boy's grave, people found words that Clara had personally scratched into the stone base with a sharp rock. Leo, my husband. After Clara died, the truth of what happened 13 years ago finally came to light. Justice may be delayed, but it is never absent. Leo's act of taking the fall constituted obstruction of justice. In the end, Clara and Mark both paid for their actions with their lives. Leo's epilogue. The year I met Clara, I was 10 years old, picking through trash cans to find something to eat. I had never known any kindness in this world. The only person who was ever good to me died because of me. From as early as I can remember, I was an existence that even stray dogs would scorn. The thing I did most every day was beg by the river. One day, a rich person came to the spot where I usually begged. She dressed differently from any of the other rich young ladies I'd seen. At the time, my only thought was how beautiful she was. Just a little cold, with a stay-away air about her. But she was generous. The most generous person I'd ever seen. Even when the other beggars got her expensive pants dirty, she didn't care at all, and even bought them a lot of food. I looked at my own dirty clothes, my dirty fingers, my bare feet, and for the first time in my life, I felt ashamed. For the first time, I was too embarrassed to go up and ask for money. For the first time, I didn't dare to look at someone, until a pair of clean, slender fingers took my hand. That winter, I felt a warmth I hadn't felt in a long, long time. Her voice was beautiful, her tone gentle. That day, her long, fair fingers wrapped around my small, grimy hand, and she asked, "What's your name?" I answered, "Leo." She said, "That's a nice name. Do you want to come home with me?" I looked at her beautiful face, smelled the lovely perfume she wore, and nodded. That day, I went home with Clara. Her family was decent enough to me, but Clara was the best to me. She taught me how to bathe, she taught me how to read, and she sent me to school. She taught me so many things I had never been exposed to. These wonderful days lasted for a month until her brother, Mark, came home for vacation. Anything I had, he demanded Clara buy for him too. Anything she gave me, he would secretly take away. He had to be unique. He couldn't stand anyone having the same things he did. He would even sabotage strangers' things just to be the one on top. He put on a good act in front of Clara, blaming everyone else for his own mistakes. At first, I thought Clara didn't know, but that wasn't it. Clara was just turning a blind eye. Clara said Mark's family had done her a great service. It was then I began to realize that no matter how big a mistake Mark made, no matter how angry Clara got, she would always give in. I just didn't expect my own crisis to come so quickly. On my 18th birthday, Mark killed someone in a DUI. He set his sights on me. My first thought was, this is absurd. But I forgot that even the most absurd thing can seem reasonable if someone is willing to compromise for you. The hardest debt to repay in this world is a favor, let alone the favor of saving a life. When Mark made that ridiculous demand for me to take the fall, Clara hesitated, because Mark's father had died saving her. And me? I couldn't say a word, because I owed Clara. Without her, there would be no me. I knew what Mark was doing was wrong, but there was nothing I could do. The scales of fate had never once tipped in my favor. That day, I went to prison for Mark. I never expected that the scariest part wasn't going to prison, but the unknown horrors waiting for me inside. When Mark used Clara's money to have people hurt me, I was in agony. But I couldn't hate Clara. I just thought, finally, I don't owe her anymore. In those 3 years, I felt the coldness of human nature and tasted the world's greatest malice. After I got out, Clara kept trying to make it up to me, but I couldn't get better. I wasn't willing to go on like this. I once promised my brother I would live a good life, but I really couldn't hold on any longer. In the end, I chose to end my short life on that river bridge. I don't wish for a next life, because a next life isn't guaranteed to be good. I only wish to be left alone, forgotten. Clara's confession. The day Leo died, I pretended to leave for a meeting. The truth is, I was going to plan our wedding. I wanted to take responsibility for him. Even though I knew he didn't need that responsibility and he didn't want to marry me, I still couldn't give up my selfish desires. I had a very bad feeling when I left that day, but the joy of our upcoming wedding washed it away. I think God must have known about my despicable actions and took him away from me to punish me. That day I locked myself in my room for 3 days and 3 nights. I hated myself countless times. Why did I let Mark's father save me? Why didn't I stop Mark? Why didn't I defend Leo? I hated that I owed Mark's father, that I had to clean up all of Mark's messes. I blamed everyone else, and only after I'd made the irreversible mistake did I realize the biggest fault was mine. It was I who caused Leo's death. It was me who owed Mark, but the one who took the fall was Leo. I regretted it countless times. Why didn't I take the blame myself? Or why didn't I expose Mark's crimes from the very beginning? But it was too late. The day Leo died, I saw the letter he left for me. He said we were even. He asked me not to look for him after he died. But I still went against his wishes and secretly had a headstone made for him. I wanted to engrave on it, Leo, my husband. In the end, I scratched it out myself. I didn't deserve his love, and he wouldn't want me to do that. He said he didn't want to see me in the next life. I know he didn't want a next life, but I was impulsive. I wanted to see him well. I wanted him to have a next life. So I went to the most sacred temple in Port City and knelt on all 999 steps praying for him. I had the temple, which had fallen into disrepair, renovated in his name, wishing him peace and joy in his next life. He said he didn't want me to visit his grave, but I disobeyed that too, because I only have this one life. 10 years later, Mark was released from prison. I thought it was time for me to leave. I went to the temple one last time and made a wish before the Buddha. If he has no next life, then give him mine. If he has a next life, then let me atone for my sins. If he is unwilling, then give him all my good fortune, and I will never appear before him again. I know this might just be for my own peace of mind, because no one knows what the next life holds. I just hope he meets someone good. I went to see Leo one last time. That day, I traced his photo with my finger for a long time, talking to him, trying to say everything I needed to say in this lifetime. Before I knew it, I looked at the sky, and it was already light. I had someone deliver a handwritten letter to the police in which I confessed the truth about the DUI from 13 years ago. I know it all came too late, but the truth is the truth. I wanted to clear his name. I broke the law by covering for Mark. That was my mistake, and I admitted my guilt. After I had done all this, I went to find Mark. All our debts ended that night by the river.